Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we'll share the screen. Share. Okay, first topic, a mystical view of Sanatana Dharma. It's an emanation of God. Each soul has the eternal truths of Hinduism encoded within itself, available through meditation. I like that word, encoded. You have to decode them. So this is a mystical view of Sanatana Dharma. It's not an academic view at all. It wouldn't make any sense except to someone who's mystical. So you don't want to use this as your default explanation of Sanatana Dharma, but it's good for you and good for those of your friends and family you know who are mystically inclined, and this would make sense to them. Hinduism is often referred to by the Sanskrit term Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana means eternal, and Dharma in this context means religion. So you always have to define Dharma because its meaning is so broad. Thus, Hinduism is the eternal religion. Calling a religion eternal naturally leads to the reflection, what is it that is eternal in the universe? So that's the first question for you. What is it that is eternal in the universe? Are you eternal? Is the world eternal? What is always there, eternal? The answer, of course, is just one entity, God. God is the only entity or only thing that is eternal. Everything else comes and goes, gets created and gets absorbed back to Mahapralaya. I propose that Hinduism's eternal essence is possible only if it abides in the intelligence of God. Otherwise, it can't be eternal. How then does this spiritual knowledge pass from God to man, whose inmost being is also immortal? That's the question to you. One analogy is to be found in biology, where we encounter a common type of cell reproduction called budding, where a daughter cell essentially grows out of and then separates from the mother cell. The DNA of each spawn cell is identical to that of the original cell. This, for example, is how yeast cells reproduce. So if any of you are knowledgeable in this area, which I am not, could add comments on that. We can picture God as the original cell in each soul as a cell produced by God, just as the DNA of a yeast cell is passed on to a newly cloned cell. So is the divine intelligence of God, which includes the knowledge we call Hinduism, passed on to each soul. This logically leads to a second question. Why then are not all people aware of the truths of Hinduism that reside within them? And that's again the question to you. If it's there, why doesn't everyone know it's there? Why isn't everybody a Hindu? The answer is that this subtle knowing is hidden deep in the soul and takes great effort and maturity to find it. We can think of this spiritual search as the ultimate treasure hunt. Divine truths are hidden within us, just waiting to be discovered. Renaissance thinker and writer Ram Swarup gave an excellent description of this search. Hinduism resides in all seeking hearts, so the person has to be a seeker. And whenever man's seeking for gods becomes spiritual, Hinduism, or the tradition of Sanatana Dharma, automatically comes in. In what way and how long could man's innermost truth be kept away from him? Nicely said. To elaborate further on this idea, just as a trained scientist can develop deep understanding of the not always obvious laws that govern the universe, the matured soul is able to fathom the hidden laws that govern spiritual unfoldment. The sages have decreed God's divine intelligence is available if you go to the depths of your soul, but it is a challenge to get there and even harder to stay there. Oh, this is my common analogy. Here's an analogy I like to use to illustrate finding the truths of Hinduism. Imagine a pond of water with gold nuggets at the bottom. If the surface of the pond has ripples due to a wind, or the pond itself is cloudy due to the presence of mud, the gold nuggets at the bottom of the pond cannot be seen from above. They are there, hidden from view. The ripples on the surface represent the agitated intellect. The cloudy water is a cluttered subconscious mind, and the gold nuggets at the bottom are the precious truths. To find these truths, we need to have a quiet intellect and a pure or clear subconscious. To achieve this takes serious spiritual striving, ideally under the guidance of a guru. An excellent third question would be, is there an original scripture of the eternal religion? And that's the question to you. So this is the mystical answer, not the academic answer. We can say that the original scripture is the wisdom imprinted in each individual soul. Over the millennia, great rishis, swamis, and pundits have tapped into this inner knowledge and drawn forth portions of it which comprise Hinduism's holy texts. However, Sanatana Dharma's most potent scripture is the unwritten wisdom that resides within each of us. Yogaswami often spoke of the superiority of one's inner scripture to any outer writing. He said, instead of spending time in book reading, it is better to spend it in studying yourself. Study is also a kind of yoga. The book is within you. Turn over the leaves and study. Oh, that's like saying the original scripture is within you. Truth is not encompassed by books and learning. You must know yourself by yourself. There is nothing else to be known. It must come from within. Don't rely on book knowledge. Trust the self alone. The last quote, it must come from within, adds a new dimension to the means of understanding the divine intelligence that God has placed within the soul. It is the faculty of intuition, by which we can gain understanding through superconscious insight rather than intellectual analysis. Yogaswami referred to such insights as inner orders. Here is an explanation from the book The Guru Chronicles of how he used inner orders. Charming story. Yoga Swami worked intuitively, responding to those who came according to inner orders. In explaining this process, he once said, "I do nothing. I can do nothing. Everything you see, that is done by what comes from within." Another time he said, "When you come here, what will happen was settled long ago. We go through it. You bring it, but it all happened long ago. Sit and be a witness." Swami explained the process. When you are pure, you live like water on a lotus leaf. Do what is necessary, what comes to you to do. Then go on to the next order you receive, and then to the next that comes. He added, boldly act when you receive orders from within. Gurudeva was good at that. You need not wait until all details are in order. If you wait for everything to be worked out, you may miss your chance. Have faith and do the work that comes from within. Money will trail after you if you are responding to divine orders. Helpers will come. Everything will come. You have only to follow carefully that which comes from within. Gurudeva also stressed the superiority of inner superconscious experience over outer intellectualization. Having never read a book from cover to cover in my life, and having been trained from very early years, 16 or 17, to have the experience first, and then somehow or other it would be verified by scripture later on, this was my path. I was told that to know what was coming up in the experiential pattern of spiritual unfoldment could be to put into the subconscious mind the experience and memories of it, which would not be the experience at all. This, I was taught, would build a spiritual pride that would deter one from the path to self-realization. Very carefully I observed this, fully understanding the wisdom of the advice. And the fourth question logically arises, who is the original teacher of the eternal religion? In his Yoga Sutras, Rishi Patanjali answers this question in chapter 1, verse 26. So that's the question to you. Who is the original teacher of the eternal religion? Ishvara was also the guru of those who lived earlier by virtue of his temporal continuity. So I don't have the Sanskrit here for temporal continuity, but that means eternal, by virtue of his being eternal. Ishvara was also the guru of those who lived earlier by virtue of his being eternal. So, of course, as we know, Ishvara refers to God as personal Lord. The great commentator Vyasa elaborates on this verse. The former teachers of knowledge and of piety are limited by time, but he to whom time as a limiting factor is not applicable was the teacher of the former teachers. As he was present with his full powers in the beginning of the present cycle of creation, so is he at the beginning of the past creations. End of quote. In other words, the original teacher of Hinduism is God himself. Subsequent teachers were his students. Common depiction of God as the primeval guru is Dakshinamurti, which literally means south-facing form. It's the image of Lord Shiva sitting under a banyan tree, silently conveying the ultimate truth to four rishis sitting attentively at his feet. God's silence in this transmission of spiritual knowing is important, for he is not endowing the sages with his knowledge, but provoking them to discover the knowing that is always and already within themselves. As Sri Ramakrishna said, you go into yourself a fool, but through the practice of yoga you come out a wise man. Gurudeva's praise of the Sanatana Dharma is the perfect conclusion to these reflections. One great joy that the Hindu has is the appreciation for all other religions. Hinduism is theocentric, that means God-centric, whereas most other religions are prophet-centric, revolving around the personality of some living person or some person who once lived in history and interpreted religion to his culture in his time. Hinduism has no founder. It was never founded. It has neither a beginning nor an end. It is coexistent with man himself. That is why it is called the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal path. It is not one man's teaching or interpretation. It is not limited to a single facet of religion, but consists of the entire spectrum, seen in its various components as if through a prism. So, entire spectrum of religion is in Hinduism, and you just choose that part which relates to where you are in this lifetime. Don't have to study all the rest. Second topic, character qualities from our workbook. And we're in the D's, discernment, 20th character quality. Okay, interesting. What happened there? Discernment. Okay. How would you define discernment? What does it mean to be discerning? Our workbook has this definition. Discernment is acuteness of perception, judgment, and understanding. Acuteness of perception, judgment, and understanding. I cultivate the virtue by drawing on all my mental and intuitive faculties when pondering a subject. By meditating, its opposite is ignorance. Lord Murugan was created by God's Shiva Shakti and given a veil of spiritual discernment, a lance of divine intelligence. Pray to Lord Murugan to unravel the great mysteries of the universe. Pray to Lord Murugan to make you a spiritual person. To sustain Saucha, it is important to surround oneself with good divinic company, to have the discrimination, which is another word for discernment, to know one type of person from another. Too many foolish, sensitive souls, thinking their spirituality could lift a soul from the world of darkness, have walked in where even the Mahadevas do not tread, and the Devas fear to tread, only to find themselves caught in that very world through the deceit and conniving of the cleverly cunning. A nice sentence. Let's not be foolish. Let's discriminate between higher consciousness and lower consciousness. Reflection. Take a moment to identify a few ways in which you could improve in discernment. Our third topic, answering questions sent to satsang@hindu.org. What is the Hindu concept of hell? Interesting question. So I have a counter question to you to think about before we start. Is hell a place, a state of mind, or both? The answer is that it is both. It's both a state of mind and a place. So Gurudeva will explain. The Antarloka, which means the astral plane, spans the spectrum of consciousness from the hellish Naraka regions, that's hell, beginning at the Patala chakra within the feet, to the heavenly realm of divine love, in the Vishuddha chakra within the throat. So we're saying the lowest part of the astral plane is hell, which in Sanskrit terms is Naraka Loka, as a place. Hell is not eternal, nor is there a Satan who tempts man and opposes God's power, though there are devilish beings called asuras, immature souls caught in the abyss of deception and hurtfulness. So that's important. In some religions, hell is eternal. If you go there, you're going to stay there forever. So hell is just a place in the astral plane in Hinduism, and you'll be there for a while, and then you reincarnate. If you're in the astral plane, you have to move on to the Shiva Loka, Karna Loka, or if you stay in the astral plane, you're going to reincarnate. Nobody stays there forever. We do not have to die to suffer the Naraka regions. This is how it's a state of mind. For hellish states of mind are also experienced in the physical world. If we do die in a hellish state of consciousness, burdened by unresolved hatred, remorse, resentment, fear, and distorted patterns of thought, we arrive in Naraka fully equipped to join others in this temporary astral purgatory. Nice phrase. It's temporary, it's astral, and it's a purgatory. So my comment, Gurudeva's answer has shown us that hell is primarily a state of mind experienced by an individual living in the 7 lower chakras. This state of mind can be experienced while living on earth, as well as when living in the astral plane in its lowest part. It is a temporary state that eventually an individual will evolve out of. Not permanent. Thank you very much. Here we are.